Hope everybody is having an amazing day and doing well. We know that a lot of people are dealing with things going on in the world, like the mask mandates and a number of other things that are happening, including what is going on in the Ukraine situation and all of that, of the war between Russia and Ukraine. And definitely interested to hear what Chris has got to say about that. We were talking offline earlier about what Finland has got going on, and I'm interested to hear more about that, and we'll see what other people pop in as well. One of the things I was going to share is that earlier today I was part of, and I'm still going to be part of. As a matter of fact, we're going to do something, Aaron, here on this network at 4 o'clock. A friend of mine is running for Man of the Year for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We did a 24-hour live streaming telethon back in March, and now we're doing a 12-hour one because we were having such fun. We decided we would continue this effort as he tries to raise $50,000. That is the goal and everything. And the last check, we were at close to 20% mark, with about a little over 8,000 being raised. And of course, I think it's till the latter part or the middle part, somewhere around the end of May, is the end target and all of that. So still plenty of time for folks to join in that campaign. Like I said, I know that I've got a live stream as part of that at 4 o'clock, and I'll be interviewing a breast cancer survivor, because definitely a lot of times the cancer research overlaps and one research will help another. And that's one of the things that I've been finding out through this society and all of that. So definitely looking forward to that interview with Amanda Ebby. And she is a breast cancer survivor, like I said. And of course, I'll be talking a little bit about my own family connection as well as friend connections to those various cancers that are out there. So anytime we can do major research, that is always a great thing. And always, anytime we can do fundraising, that is a great thing as well. So that's just something that I've been involved in now for a couple of months, and glad to support my friend Tim Sohn. And I know that definitely Chris can relate it to the whole thing of healthcare and us trying to do healthcare research, as he has had some things dealing with his heart. And I know that I've got friends that have dealt with that, and I've had family members that have dealt with MS and other things along those lines. So I know that that's just something I wanted to bring into the forefront, particularly since we're going to do this show at 4 o'clock, and I've tied it into the network and everything. But I'd love to hear some of your thoughts just about medical research and some of the importance of medical research and these organizations like the MS Society and the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, which is what I am doing to help my friend Tim Sohn. But I'd love to hear some of your thoughts and reflections on that, because I just felt it was a worthwhile cause. And when he called me, as well as some of his other live streamer buddies, I don't think that any of us hesitated to jump on board and see what we could do to help and all of that. So just love to hear some of your take. And then, of course, we'll get to the war in Ukraine and other things that are going on in the world.
So, well, good morning, Mark. Thank you for having me. I've had heart disease now for going on 35 years. And in that 35 years, I've seen medical advances like unbelievable stuff. Like in 2000, they did an angioplasty on me, and because the blockage that I had was too close to the main artery, they said they cannot go in there and fix it with an angioplasty. They'll have to do a bypass. So I had a triple bypass in 2001. And now they cleared those arteries with angioplasty. So, I mean, it's amazing the amount of and I'll tell you, if societies, the American Heart Association, I give to. As a matter of fact, I wrote a book. I wrote a book, and that book was my journey through this whole heart disease situation. And I sell it. When I sell it, the American Heart Association gets 100% of the proceeds. So I mean, it's a situation where you have that type of where you have that type of futuristic stuff, the predictive things, and you can predict that better and better and better things will come with research, better and better. Now, true, there's still 600 to 700,000 people that die each year, according to the Center for Disease Control, from heart disease or from heart attacks or from heart-related illnesses, cardiovascular-related illnesses. But when you take into consideration, and this is very important in data analytics, Mark, you have to compare apples to apples. Mm-hmm. So let's say 600,000 people die this year, right? and 600 people die next year. We sit there and say, well, Chris, we still have 600,000 people die. Yes, and that's bad. That's bad. But when you take a look at the percentage, we've had, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we had 300 million people. Now we have 320 million people. So all of a sudden, it's 600,000 divided by 300 million, last year or 2 years ago, and then this year it's 600,000 divided by 320 million. So the percentage is coming down. That's a good thing. Yes, it's coming down. It's perceptible, but still you want it to come down even more and more and more. So MS, my one cousin had MS for decades, tried everything, bee stings, different types of experiments. Finally, overcame them, and he died. So my wife has Parkinson's. Anything to do with Parkinson's, I'm in. You want me to run 50 miles for Parkinson's? I'm going to run 50 miles for Parkinson's. So, I mean, it's that type of thing where you have that, because what they're trying to say is, Mark, is they don't want they don't want people dying from MS,
Right.
from heart disease, from Parkinson's. If you die with MS, then you die with MS, but they don't want people dying from it. So you're trying to, you can't eradicate MS,
Right.
but you can, if you can control it, if you can get it to the point where people can live a quality life. I have a woman up the street that has MS, and she, she's out walking every day. She does those things. I'm in, man. I'm in all.
Yeah, and along those same lines, like you said, one of the things that they were talking about in the first 2 hours and everything was the nature of preventative medicine. And we do know that preventative medicine is very important. And like I said, Tim is a survivor of that whole leukemia, lymphoma family of diseases and all of that. And I was actually talking to a friend of mine that has Hodgkin's lymphoma, and she is a 20-year survivor and all
Wow.
along those lines. So these are some amazing stories, like you said, and that whole notion of preventive medicine, because we do know that certain cultures, we even saw that during COVID, are afraid to go to doctors because of some of the historical
Yeah. Well,
misjustices that have happened in that and all along those
so
lines.
Smithsonian, right? Smithsonian Magazine. I have it. It's April, May 2022 has an article in here called "The Unequal Distribution of Health."
Mhm.
And there's a program on that's called the Color of Care. It's on Smithsonian Channel. I read the article. It is, I can't believe this is happening. I mean, it says today a woman in America today is 50% more likely to die in childbirth than her own mother. 50%. I mean, that's ridiculous. This is 2022, not 1922. I don't understand. In 100 years, you're telling me that we can't assure women's health and protection, from the state. Not that they need protected, but at the same time, we need to have equal health across the board. And I see more and more stories on this, Mark, and it disturbs me. It disturbs me.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. I didn't want to bring in Sasha because, like I said, we don't want to just make it about medicine and everything, even though medicine is very important. But there is that war going on in the Ukraine as well, and all along those lines. And apparently, Putin has claimed victory in Mariupol, but thousands of Ukrainians remain in the steel mill. So definitely, he's saying that he's won a victory there and all of that. And definitely, there are even some people that are saying that he may have another thing in the mind for those steel workers and all of that. And if he does what I think they're thinking he might do, that would even make him more of a pariah than he is already being pursued as, and all of that. But
it
what
better
is your
not be
take
chemicals.
and all of that? Because the last thing I would think that he would want to do is, destroy that whole thing with as many people in there. Because, like I said, he's already seen in a very negative light, and to have that kind of mass destruction in one hit in terms of human life, I just think that even those that might be on the borderline would be off the borderline in terms of those that if there are people supporting him and things along those lines. But Sasha, what is your take about the war, and are you concerned that he might do something that insane?
With 100% control of the media, I'm surprised that he hasn't declared that Russians took over the Kiev and Lviv and all Ukraine totally, and already started attack on Poland and Romania and Hungary and Sweden and Finland, and UK asked for a peace treaty with Russia, and United States is about to surrender. So you can do all that. I mean, as much as you can please yourself, but the reality could be entirely different. But people, not that they don't have alternative media access. It seems to me that they enjoy being bamboozled by Russian government media because it sends them the information that they can actually enjoy. That Russians are the greatest, the Russians are winning everything, and so on. And even they say, well, maybe it's not so, maybe they win, but not as much as they claim. But still, they win, that's for sure. And that makes people feel good. And let them enjoy themselves because it's not going to last very long because of many factors, including the military disaster coming in Ukraine and the financial and economic disaster coming because of the Western sanctions. So both will make people sober and very quickly.
Hey, Sasha, remember Nicholas, right? Nicholas the Second, or whatever, Tsar Nicholas,
Yeah,
and he tried to take on Japan. And all of a sudden they were losing, and the people started to suffer from
absolutely.
starvation and all that stuff. And what happened? What happened? All of a sudden, yeah, Nicholas was no longer czar. Yeah, it was, all of a sudden it
And
was the
that might be
revolution,
probably
right?
what happened to Putin as well. But
Yeah.
earlier you mentioned a story, and I'd love to hear your take on this about the difference between Finland and Sweden and how they are debating in Finland and all of that. I know we were talking about that offline, but I'd love to hear your thoughts around that, and maybe Sasha can add some insight as well.
So Sasha, I just wanted to. So I heard, through the news or whatever, that through the Finnish news, that they're debating this joining NATO, and
Right.
the people that didn't want to join NATO was like, the people that wanted to join NATO was like 26%. Yeah, well, that was before February 24th. And all of a sudden, it's shot up to like 60% want to join NATO, and they want to join this baby like within weeks or months. But the thing I heard was that there are Finnish politicians sitting there saying, why rock the boat? Why piss off Putin? We haven't had a problem with him in the past. We have a border. Been no problems. There's been no issues. Why poke the sleeping giant? What, Sasha? I think that's the most bullcrappiest excuse for not joining NATO that I could think of. I don't know. What do you think? You've been out that area.
I think since you see, Sweden and Finland are two different cases, though. The Finland is a case of what later on has been called Finlandization, and that's what Putin wants Ukraine to be. So the country cannot offend Russia in any substantial or even unsubstantial way. They just have to completely lie down and actually praise Russia, what a great country it is, and go on and on and on. That's a model of Finlandization. But there are explanations to that because Finland was on the losing side of Second World War, and with such a great neighbor, great, quote unquote, as the Soviet Union, I can say that it was probably the best survival strategy for Finland because it was very close to following the steps of Poland and Romania and all other Eastern Bloc countries. Now, ethnically, they're also different because Finland is a stock of well, they call it Finnish race. And in fact, the Russians took a lot from Finns ethnically, as much as Sweden was part of Scandinavian nations, and as such, Although Swedish has a lot of influence in Finland. For example, actually Swedish, which is spoken only by probably 12% of people in Finnish, is the second the official language of Finland, Swedish language. So I think, if anything, there could be a decoupling of Sweden and Finland, and also don't forget Sweden doesn't have any common border with Russia. So it could be that Sweden may decide to jump in and join NATO, where Norway is already many years ago a member, and so Sweden may just go ahead together with Norway
Yep.
and Denmark.
Yep.
Whereas Finland may decide to stay neutral for now. The benefits are that they believe they will not get upset their mighty neighbor. The downside is that that mighty neighbor will just march in, and
Yeah. Yeah.
Finland, nobody will defend it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be like Austria, you
Be
know?
like Austria and
Yeah,
everything
Yeah.
like that. It's interesting and everything. And we will get back to the
just
Ukraine.
a
I did see that
judgment call.
Steve is here, and Steve will probably be having some thoughts around the other thing that is going on today. And I'm getting ready to bring him in very shortly once he gets set up and everything. But it is today, Earth Day, and definitely President Biden is expected to sign an executive order addressing concerns such as deforestation and greenhouse gas emissions. And apparently, he's also wanting to protect some of the nation's largest and oldest trees. I thought they were already protected, but apparently he wants to add some protection to that and all along those lines. But I do know that Steve said he was going to come in and have some thoughts around Earth Day, because I think he might even be at an Earth Day activity, or at least he was going to one earlier today. So I'm going to bring him in at some point once I see the camera on and all along those lines. But until we get to that and everything, one of the things that was going on that I'd love to hear folks' thoughts about is actually a investment issue that folks may be interested in about. Because one of the stories that I saw is that there is a major corporation that is known throughout the world. They've actually got venues throughout, but they have been having special tax status and all of that. But they are
Oh,
saying that Florida Governor DeSantis may repeal Disney's special tax status, and that tax officials and legislators say the move could leave local taxpayers to cover more than $1 billion in bond debt. And there are some folks that say that if that happens, who knows? Maybe Disney leaves Florida and all along those lines, and that could definitely be something that would definitely devastate Disney. It'd be kind of like if UNC left Chapel Hill, because that's pretty much what the majority of Chapel Hill, North Carolina is and everything. But Chris, what are your thoughts about this kind of thing going on? I mean, Walt Disney's been getting a slide, I imagine, not just in
oh,
Florida, but also
big,
in
big time slide. Let me
California
tell you,
and even in some
uh,
of the countries that they've been to as well.
so I mean, any improvements that Disney has made, anything they've done from the standpoint of building, developing, whatever else, they've never had to pull a permit. They've never had to pay the taxes on that building construction. They've gotten away with not millions, billions worth of development and everything else. The thing is, and this is something that goes back, and I hate to compare it to international stuff, but there is a comparison there. But basically, what Florida did was, or what Disney did was, they made a comment about a Florida law. Keep your mouth shut. If you're getting money free, which you are, keep your mouth shut, or pay the taxes and spill all you want. But if you're going to get freebies from Florida and you're going to sit there and take them freely from them, don't sit there and say, well, don't say gay bill, whoa. First of all, read the bill, number one. Number two is don't say anything. Keep your mouth shut and just take your revenues and go home. Or else pay your taxes, which you haven't done, forever, since 1972, 50 years worth of freebies. And DeSantis says, guess what? You get to say whatever you want. We're just going to take our tax money. So now you can do whatever you want to do. And a lot of people said, well, that's freedom of speech. No, that's called recompense. If you want to live in my state and you want to take freebies from my state, then by God, either read the bill and come up with some reasonable debate, or shut the hell up. So that's
So,
that's
Nick,
my
what's your take? Nick, what's your take on this? Because Disney
It's
has definitely been
wonderful.
a self-governing kingdom in Florida,
I
and
totally
apparently now they are being told that they actually have to pay
yeah,
some
yeah,
taxes
yeah,
and all of that. So,
yeah,
what is your thoughts about
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
separate
yeah.
state of Disney? Because apparently Disney
Well,
is like its own
it's a very
separate state.
okay. I mean, the thing is, what this is very interesting because this history goes back a long ways in Florida, because I was living there obviously way before
that's right.
Disney
In
even came
Tampa.
on board. My family was there hundreds of years before they came on board, literally in the 1800s. Okay, but see what happens is Central Florida, where they're at, is a poor part of the state. It's like Eastern North Carolina. It's dirt, bloody poor. It was back then. So Disney went and bought a bunch of land using land trusts, so no one would know that Disney was doing the acquisitions. Okay, because they used fictitious names. Then they went and cajoled the Tallahassee, which is easy to do, and say, give us a special district so we have basically our own country within the country. The people in Tallahassee, who are also dirt poor and stupid, go, sure. And they just basically opened up the red carpet for Disney, which, by the way, did revitalize economically the area. And they did get, you could say that was a bad deal for Florida, a good deal for Florida. It's debatable. All right. Now as you move forward, henceforward, zillions of years from now, you have this new bill that was passed, and both parties do this. It's kind of,
Yes.
we're going to do corporate retaliation, okay? And it's never meant that way, but finally what happened, and the Don't Say Gay bill has also been misrepresented by both things. I don't even know what the final version said. Part of it had, there's no Don't Say Gay in there, okay? The last one I read, it was limited to K through 3, and they just didn't want all this weirdo sexual education being brought down to kindergarten students, which from one respect I can agree with. All right. Now, then on the other side, Disney employs a lot of gay people. I mean, it's the entertainment industry.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, that's the realities. And so they felt slighted. And so they went to the CEO and say, do something, CEO, which he couldn't really do because all he does is wear Disney. So he came out against the bill. All right. So that, I mean, this drama you just can't make up, right? Then you go to DeSantis. He goes, wait a minute, what are these guys doing? Let's go take a look at them. And then they found this special district, which everybody knows for years. They're basically a country within the country. Well, let's go ahead and repeal that country with the country. Yeah. Now, the chess move is on Disney's side. But let me tell you what happened, because the same garbage happened with IBM about 30 years ago, International Business Machines. They created a unitary tax in Tallahassee to tax IBM on the worldwide income. IBM objected, went to Tallahassee, and Tallahassee went like this to IBM. IBM said this: we're going to fold our company in Boca Raton, which I was living at the time, transport everything to North Carolina, which I'm living now, and never come back. And you know what IBM did? They did exactly what they said they did. They shuttered everything, and they went to Raleigh and North came back. Now, if Disney really have chutzpah at the executive level, which they don't, the CEO would say, you repeal this district, we're moving everything to Mexico, and we won't be back. Seriously. And they just stick it to the Florida legislature. It's my belief that they have no spine to do that, and they're going to fold. Okay, it's like a little poker game, Mark. You know, but if they really believe it, they say, fine, you don't want our special district. Mexico would love to have us. We'll create Disneyland Americas in Cancun. We're going to shutter the Magic Kingdom and move everything to Mexico, which, by the way, labor costs are cheaper. Taxes are less because it's corrupt. If you have to pay taxes, just pay people off. Okay. It'll revitalize the whole country of Mexico to have Disney Americas in Mexico. And so from some respect, it actually makes sense for them to do this anyway.
Well, Disney's already got some overseas places because they're like Disney Paris.
Yeah, they do. They have, by the way, Disney Paris. Very interesting you said that, because when I was in Paris several months ago, and I did some research on that. The number one attraction in Paris, is it the Louvre? Is it the Eiffel Tower? Is it the Musée d'Orsay? Is it Versailles? No, the number one attraction in Paris is, and it's outside Paris, is Disneyland Paris. I can't believe it. I mean, you know,
they have one in China, don't they?
I don't know. They have one. They have somewhere, I think, in Tokyo or somewhere.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, but the thing is, it's a chess game, Mark. It's a chess game, bluff game. Okay, the real thing is, does Disney want to do a power play Or are they going to back off? I mean, the thing is, if I was a CEO, which I'm not, never will be, I would go Tallahassee. I said, look, you repeal my special district, I'm going to pull an IBM on you. I'm going to shutter the Magic Kingdom, move it to Mexico, and we won't be back. And then you sell all the land for all these stupid golf course developments, which, by the way, they make a lot of money. It could be a good economic move for them.
It sounds like a great economic move.
Tell the state of Florida, if you're going to be a bully, we can too. But let's see if the CEO has the
we're going to see what kind of balls he's got and everything, just to use that term and all of that.
They have none. They have none.
But I do have a question about the media, because apparently there was a report, and of course it was found to be totally false and everything, even though some people think that it should have been a reality, but there was several online articles, at least one major one that came out, that claimed that American Special Forces arrested the top U.S. infectious disease expert, Anthony Fauci, on April 9th, back a week ago, on charges of treason, malpractice, conspiracy, and homicide. Unfortunately, this is now shown to be false and all of that. But I was just wondering, what do you think when you hear these stories that come out?
I think our ratings would go up tremendously if we just created false news everywhere. Mark, I mean,
hey, Mark, can you hear me?
Anthony Fauci was arrested, or we could say,
we can hear you, Steve.
Here we can do a new headline news. Putin has decided
it's good to be here, guys.
Make peace with Zelensky, and you run that as a headline news. It's all fake. Come on.
Go ahead, Stevie.
Steve's here. Steve has real news.
Hey, Steve, how you doing? And everything we went to Earth Day earlier, and I know that they were doing some stuff around protecting the trees and some other things that Biden is doing as part of Earth Day, because Earth Day is today and all of that. Nick, you missed it earlier, but I was saying that I'm actually part, and we'll be doing a special at 4 o'clock on my part for a fundraiser for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, much as we did about 2 months ago. But that was actually part of the online dinner party. This is a special edition because it's happening on Friday, and my friend Tim Stone is running for Man of the Year in Pennsylvania. So he's trying to raise $50,000, and he's close to, I think, near the $9,000, $10,000 mark and all of that. So we'll be interviewing a breast cancer survivor at 4 o'clock.
Okay, and I think we have something also coming up with China, Russia, Ukraine. With
we do at 11 o'clock.
Maybe Sasha can give a little introduction of what's going on there.
What's going on there? It's a continuation of lies, disinformation. Russians cannot make even an inch of progress. They left alone this Azov steel plant because of inability to take it over, unless you are willing to sacrifice 10, maybe 20,000 of your troops. And Putin doesn't have that many left. So they decided, so while they're saying that they liberated Mariupol, there are close to thousands of the most experienced fighters probably in the world, people who were fighting Russia since 2014. They're well armed, they're very dedicated, they're very skillful, and they're very strong. And by leaving them there, you are claiming that they took Mariupol? What a lie! Just 100%, absolutely.
Yeah,
totally a lie.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and get started, guys. Sasha, thank you for sharing that perspective. It's a little bit dark back here, so I apologize, but I'm going to be with us and close out on Earth Day. But I did want to take a moment and just say that it's been great to be with you guys this week. I'll be closing out the show with my monologue. But the bottom line, I think on Monday, we're going to have a longer conversation about Earth Day because I was late today. And we're going to talk about kind of innovation and technology. I'm working on getting a couple of guests that talk about carbon sequestration and other technologies, because I think at the end of the day, Earth Day is about reducing carbon emissions from 51 billion tons of emissions to zero, which is what Bill Gates says in his book. I'll talk about his book at the end of this monologue, at my monologue. But the bottom line is the way that we transport ourselves, the foods that we eat, the cement, the way we design our buildings, manufacturing, how we grow things, agriculture. All of these are going to be affected by emissions. And it's not so easy to go to zero. So how are we going to do that? And I think, it's really going to be about innovation, technology, the role of governments, state, federal government, And politically, how do we do it when we don't have a really good energy transition strategy, which is something we don't talk about? So I'd love to get your perspective. When I say energy transition, I mean moving away from fossil fuels. We don't have enough electric vehicle stations. And Sasha, I don't know how it's going on in Canada. Is there as much of a focus on green in Canada? I guess I'll start with you. Is there as much of a focus on green in Canada and the green premium and reducing carbon emissions as it's talked about in the U.S.? And happy Earth Day to everybody.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, this idea is fairly popular, but on everyday basis, I don't think that people are talking about over coffee and dinner parties about the green energy. It's just not there. I mean, people take an approach. It would be nice to have a green energy, right?
Yeah.
But to do something really about it, nobody really wants, especially if we are talking about the prices of fossil fuels going higher and higher. So they just believe that they have to produce more and more of the same to lower the prices. So
Yeah.
this is kind of a vicious circle. There is no escape really. So it's not worth even to
It's
discuss.
not. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of Earth Day celebrations. There's going to be one in Portsmouth next week on April 30th, and then an Apex tomorrow. Lots of events, but we're going to talk about it at the end. Real quickly, I want to. Does anyone have any insight about Earth Day, Mark, or something that you want us to
I
take
mean,
away, and
Earth Day,
Chris?
I've actually participated in some Earth Day activities in the past, been part of some of the festivals that have been held here in Durham before the COVID pandemic. And definitely there are a lot of people here. Uh, this particular area of North Carolina is very much, in my mind, very environmentally friendly, and definitely a lot of people that are environmentalists. I mean, there's a group here that actually does a thing called um, the Beaver Dam pageant or the Beaver pageant, and that is actually around Ellerby Creek and all of that. So that is one of those not quite Earth Day activities, but it's usually held, I think, in the month of May and all along those times. And of course, there are various Earth Day events in July. The Eno will be taking place, and a lot of that is the celebration of that particular state park. So I just think of Durham and Carrboro and a lot of those areas as being very environmentally friendly, and a lot of people that are very much concerned about it. And it actually is sometimes the conversations that happen here in this kind of liberal city and all of that, where people will have it as a dinner time conversation and just bring it up in some of their passing things in their social environments and all of that. I did have a quick question for Chris along those same lines, because I was seeing that there was some research being done. Speaking of Earth Day and being and these kind of like scientific researches, and I'm going like, why would you do that? And then as I read it, it made a little bit more sense, because apparently researchers have completed the first open air study of, are y'all ready for this, genetically engineered mosquitoes in the United States. And the result, according to the biotechnology firm running the experiment, are positive, but larger tests are still needed to determine whether the insects can achieve the ultimate goal. And this is where it actually makes sense, of suppressing a wild population of potentially virus carrying mosquitoes. So maybe that's why we're trying to genetically engineer some of these mosquitoes so they can stop the virus
Yeah.
carrying mosquitoes, which might be carrying COVID. But definitely, I was just thinking, like, why would you? I mean, I hate
Yeah.
mosquitoes and all of that. So why would you be trying to genetically engineer one? But apparently, that's what we're doing. Chris, you're in that whole data engineering
Yeah, you bet.
kind of field and doing data analysis. What are your thoughts? Because I know, mosquitoes
First of all,
love roaches with me. They're
uh,
not the nicest critters.
no, I'll get to mosquitoes in a second, and I will. But to talk about Earth Day, so Steve, you're saying, and I agree. You're saying we have to change the way that we do things, the way that we have things, the way that we manufacture things. Unfortunately, at this point in time, and until we can transition otherwise, we need steel. You cannot produce steel with any other fuel, no other fuel besides fossil fuel or nuclear fuel. That's it. You can't do it with solar. You can't do it with wind. You can't do it with geothermal. You can't do it with any of those. So until we can produce steel, and people say, well, I don't need steel to have a shirt. Yes, you do. I don't need steel to have this. Yes, you do. You have to have steel to be able to do manufacturing, and you can't do it unless you have fossil fuels. So what we need to do is figure out, and the best way to do this, as far as I know, is fusion. If we had fusion energy, we would no longer need none, zero petroleum, zero fossil fuel, and zero uranium, because fusion's not made from uranium. So it's made from seawater. So basically, you have a situation where you have to make that now people might
yeah,
think,
and I think
people,
the premise is that, and we're
yeah,
I mean, these are conversations that we have to have, is the effect it will have on our daily lives.
yeah,
And there's a difference between reducing carbon emissions and getting to zero. And it's a big challenge because and the other thing we've heard about, that I've heard Fareed Zakaria talk about this, is methane from the cows. All of these things that are, so I
yeah,
try to break
yeah,
it down into
yeah.
buckets of,
How do you make that?
transportation, electric vehicles, agriculture, farming, plant-based meats, and I'm going to talk about that at the end. But food
No,
for
that makes
thought.
a lot
I
of
think,
sense. Yeah,
but we
we
want to
definitely
wish
have to do
everyone a
that.
happy Earth Day and
Yep.
Yeah,
make
I
sure that
appreciate that.
you're
I
getting
do
out
have a
there.
quick question for both of y'all, and this is actually an entertainment question and everything.
But
And I
before you get
want
to
to
that,
hear folks
Mark,
about this,
I
thoughts
want to talk
around this.
mosquitoes. Mosquitoes. I want to just
Yeah, I
hit
want to get to the
mosquitoes.
mosquitoes. Please
Yeah,
get
yeah.
to the mosquitoes, and then I got another question.
Okay, so basically, technology, like you say, Steve, we got to move towards that. The technology exists, and here's why I say this: when I was stationed in East Africa, we had Egypti mosquitoes, which carry malaria, right? And we were told to take these pills and make sure whatever. They found an Egypti mosquito by one of the areas that where the Navy base where I was, and they were able to extract the blood from this mosquito and extract the DNA of every single person that mosquito bit. Think about that for a second. And then they were able to track down those people, because we have to give DNA, and be able to find out who that mosquito bit and be able to treat them for malaria. Now, if they can do that, they can certainly genetically, they're genetically predisposed to do other things. But if that's the situation, Steve, if we have technology like that, we're this far away from developing technology that will save the earth. This far. It's just that additional shot that we need to take. So I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we
Sorry.
want you to, we're going to continue our discussion of Earth Day next week as we follow up, maybe next week, dedicating to some guests that are coming in.
Oh yeah,
I'm
we can
gonna,
definitely get some
I'm gonna,
environmental guests. I know some people here in this space that are in that environmental field and all that. But the quick question I had for everybody on this panel and everything is, and it comes down to another celebrity getting himself in trouble and everything. But what are you thinking if you're on a plane, and it was a plane, and you decide that you want to taunt one of the greatest boxers of all times? And of course, he's
Mike
going
Tyson.
to punch you down, because that's what happened with Mike Tyson, because he was taunted and all of that. So, Chris, what were you thinking? Oh, not you personally, but what was anybody thinking when they're going to taunt Mike Tyson on a limited plane and not expect to get a beatdown?
The taunter, right? Let's go to international. The taunter is Putin. Mike Tyson is Ukraine. There you go.
Yes.
There it is right there. Putin, sticks to the Ukraine, sticks it in the belly button of Ukraine. Yeah, what are you doing? Ukraine says, something, I'm going to kick your ass. And that's it. It's just all of a sudden, it's like, what did I do?
Yeah,
I mean, how stupid.
Yeah, but how stupid can you be? Nick, what did you think? I heard about this
I
yesterday.
just saw the video briefly, and I thought, I didn't know the backstory behind it, Mark. But let me tell you something. If you're taunting Mike Tyson, that's probably a mistake. That's what I would say. I mean, the guy is certainly, when he was boxing, he was the beast of the boxers. I mean, since then he's kind of mellowed down. He's got his nice place in Las Vegas, and he's chilling out and doing okay. But that doesn't mean, when you go after, it's a lot like if Steve Rao goes to John McEnroe and says, "I'm going to get you in tennis. I'm going to get you in tennis." You're probably playing the wrong guy in tennis. Even though McEnroe has been off the tour for a long time, he's probably still pretty good. Okay, so Tyson may be off the charts as a professional boxer, but the guy is still probably pretty good, Mark. Unless you're another professional boxer, you have no shot. I mean, if he took that guy in the ring, he'd take him out. I don't even know who the guy
He
is.
would take him out, and
Yeah.
Tyson has always had some issues around some of the
Anger
people wondering
control
around his
management.
mentality and just some of the mental
Yeah,
health
yeah.
aspects of his
You
life
missed the
as
anger
well, and all that. And there's another famous person that's in the news as well, actually up the road from us and everything in Virginia, because apparently Johnny Depp is suing his ex-wife Amber Heard for libel over an article she wrote for the Post back in 2018, and there are going to be some high-profile stars, including James Franco, Paul Bettany, and yes, Elon Musk are also scheduled to give testimony during this 6-week hearing, because apparently there were some accusations of things going on about abuse within the relationship. And of course, Johnny Depp is saying that's not true. That's why he's suing his ex-wife, and she is countersuing because it's all around domestic abuse. And domestic abuse is a very important issue, and it's a very real issue, and all of that. But we got these stars that are suing over it in this court up the road from us in North Carolina, in Virginia.
Yeah, real quickly,
So, Mark, I assume their relationship is over with. Would that be correct?
It did say ex-wife.
It's ex-wife. Okay, so the relationship
real
obviously went sour somewhere. Okay.
real quickly, I want to shift into just a couple of things going on in the world that we need to talk about. First of all, a nail biter. France is going into runoff elections as Marine Le Pen could have a chance to win, which would really be disruptive for Europe and also potentially more European power for Russia. So stay tuned on that. Kentucky, their abortion law has been reversed temporarily by a federal judge. So they are now off the hook for abiding by that abortion law. And real quickly, 100,000 civilians trapped in Mariupol. And it does look like the war in Ukraine is shifting to the east, obviously, and that terrain is a lot flatter. So people think that it will give the Russian army a military better chance. But they underestimated the first phase, so who knows? And the final issue, real quickly, is there's also been talk about Kevin McCarthy asking Trump to step down after the riot. But then again, he went in and supported him right after with the picture over at Mar-a-Lago. So who knows? But anyone want to start? Those are kind of the big picture issues. I mean, let's start with France. Chris and Sasha, are you concerned about what's going on in the French election?
I'll tell you, Sasha, I can't wait to hear what you have to say. But let me tell you something. Le Pen, I've heard her speak, and I've heard her, do the debate with Macron. And let me tell you something. Macron, I don't like France anyways, as you guys know. Macron to me is like this, puppet anyways. But let me tell you something. Le Pen, I really get scared about her. France kind of plays this game in NATO where it's kind of like we're administrative only, and we're only going to get involved militarily when it has something to do with us. Le Pen is saying we're pulling out of there. And if she pulls out, I wonder if France is going to join the Shanghai Cooperative Organization, SCO, with Iran and Pakistan and the rest of those nuts. And I'm just Uzbekistan and Tajikistan and the rest. And I'm just sitting back going, what is going through France's head with this whole thing? She's 46 to 52% right now. She was like 30. She's catching up with this guy. This could be a really interesting runoff election. But man, Le Pen gets in there. U.S. should pull out of France. We should not do anything with France. We say, something, you're on your own. You're out of here. We're not going to trade with you. We're not going to do anything with you.
Yeah. Now, Sasha. So anyway, your insight on France, but also I'd like you to think about now the phase of the war. Are we looking at? And I'm going to try, hopefully I can come on your show next week. I'd be honored. But are we looking at potentially the winning outcome being Russia just taking over Eastern Ukraine, the capital moving, and it would be kind of like a East Germany, West Germany? Or do you think it's too early to make that call on where this war is headed?
I think if Le Pen will become president of France, Putin will definitely make a move to France, and she will ask Russian government for help. So he will do it on the request of legally elected government. And in this case, France will be lost for NATO, for European Union, for all civilizations. It will become, actually, it is in some ways third world country. If last time I was on a
Yeah.
cruise in Marseille, you could step on the shore of Marseille and you would run back to cruise ship. This is so scary place. So France today, it is in a way third world country. I think they will probably switch from French to Arabic or some kind of Middle Eastern language, and in this case, actually, before she will invite Putin, I think NATO has to occupy the France and just arrest all the government and
Yeah. Oh,
it just
sorry.
doesn't mean probably it's not 100% legal. Probably there are some problems, but it could be easily overcome in order to save French people. Because if they cannot save themselves and will elect Le Pen, so something is wrong with French people, as I always suspected, and that would have to be fixed, and very quickly.
There are a
Yes, I
couple
mean,
of financial things, Steve, that I wanted to mention as well, and I want to know people's thoughts about it because one of them is actually a major app that a lot of people use. They even sometimes use it for fundraisers. I know I've been guilty of using it as well, and they have admitted that they were hacked and all of that. That
GoFundMe.
being Cash App. So,
Okay.
money expert
Oh.
Clark Howard has definitely mentioned this, and definitely the company has said that it had a data breach back in 2021, and said the company had said it is notifying 8.2 million current and former customers as how they could be affected. And I do know quite a few people, including some folks that have done fundraising activities, not the one that I'm involved now, but some others that have used Cash App as well. And a lot of people use it to trade money back and forth, like PayPal. So I was wondering, what are people's thoughts about this very major hack that apparently has taken place?
You know, I'm a cybersecurity certified person here. Let me tell you something. 90% of hacks occur through emails. 90%. And people don't get it. They don't, you know what? Cybersecurity works on greed. They always work on greed. They sit there and they say, you have a free gift here, and and people click on it, and all of a sudden, they're into they hack them, they hack into their email, whatever else. There's a lot of issues having to do with email. People just need to be very, very careful. And it's so easy to tell. It's so easy to tell if somebody's hacking you. All you have to do is get the from address. And if it says from PayPal, you tap on PayPal. You tap on that from. If it comes up to be George W at blah 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 blah.com, it's not PayPal. Don't even go. Just delete the message and you're done. So I think there's a lot of things that have to happen. That's very, very simple, a very simple aspect here. And I
That
think
makes a lot of sense. Hey,
Go ahead.
Nick, I had a question for you as well because apparently, Nick's gone, but maybe he'll come back because I do have a question for him about another one. But anybody can take it, including Steve and everything. But Amazon has apparently said that they're going to allow more perks, including outside of the Amazon platform. So the e-commerce giant announced a service that allows a third-party merchant to add a buy with Prime button. So you can offer free Prime deliveries and free returns on eligible items. I know we've been talking about having a store even for this network at some point. So definitely that's what I was going to ask Nick. We can add Amazon Prime and all of that, and it can be tied in because they're saying you don't have to be Amazon connected. So Chris, I'll turn it over to you unless Nick pops back on and everything. But what do you think about this big news that what I was hearing about even in other news reports on yesterday?
I'll tell you, Amazon would be dumb not to. I mean, when you think about it, I don't know about you guys, but let me tell you something. If I need something, I sit back and I go, let's see if Amazon has it. I mean, I go immediately to that. Now, if I go to someplace like Home Depot and Home Depot says, hey, you can buy this with Prime, I'm sitting back going, I'm in, because I hit that button, boom, it links me to Prime. I get the stuff I need. It's shipped to me free. Right now, Home Depot, you got to buy like $70 worth of stuff in order to get free shipping. Not with my Prime account, I don't. I get $1.50 thing and I get a free shipping. So the bottom line is that, again, I hate to say convenience aspects, but when convenience grows, people will respond positively. If you say I can do two things for the price of one, or if I can get two things for the price of one, or if I can do two things for one click, it's like, well, that's a no-brainer. I'll just do that. But the problem is that
Yeah.
you become a slave to that, to that technology.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're right, and I think that people are just so dependent. Speaking on it, we're going to talk about it more next week. But I attended the Raleigh Durham Startup Summit, which was the premier event, and we had a wonderful series of events on innovation. A lot of technology companies, a lot of venture investors. One of the keynote speakers was Scott Wingo, who's sold 4 companies in North Carolina, and I think commerce was one of the tracks, and talking about the disruption of e-commerce and how more and more people are buying from Amazon. So it's helping companies, helping people be more productive. But at the same time, are they going to start dominating? And are we going to start buying our cars from Amazon and our groceries from Amazon, which is, just everything. And it just, it's quite amazing. And, we'll be talking about the Startup Summit, and we're trying to bring in some speakers this next month about it. But it was good to see people there in person, no one wearing masks. Here right now, life is back to where it was 2 years ago. It's going faster. The pace is picking up. I can tell you right now. The days are going faster, but I'm missing the quiet time at home and just being on a lot of Zoom calls where I could get more done, not having to drive everywhere. So I don't know whether you guys are feeling this in the U.S. and Canada, but
No, that makes a lot of sense and everything. Hey, Chris, got a question for you, and this comes back to one of our other favorite topics, and also one of Nick's favorite states and everything. But 2 plus 2 still equals 4, right? And 4 plus 4 still equals 8. And last time I checked, that hadn't changed. I know there's all these things about new math and all of that.
Well, that's not true.
Florida has released examples from their. Are you ready for this? Because we talked about banned books, but they released examples, apparently maybe yesterday or the last couple of days, of examples from banned math textbooks. That's why I was asking about 2 plus 2 being 4. But apparently, the Florida Department of Education on Thursday posted 4 pages of examples from math textbooks that have been banned from classrooms, citing prohibited topics such as only references to critical race theory, inclusions of Common Core, which is actually what a lot of the testing is done around, and all of that, and the unsolicited addition of social educational learning in mathematics, according to multiple reports. So I guess they're saying that the examples are wrong, and therefore these books are going to be banned. So they have banning books in Florida, but last I checked, whether it's algebra or whether it's geometry or some of the other forms of math, even calculus, the principles haven't changed in the last.
No, they really haven't, and it's interesting how sometimes these examples get. I taught mathematics and I taught statistics at the middle school, the high school, and the university level, and I can tell you that examples are examples, and it goes something like that. I can sit there and I used to tell my students, I can tell you that 5 and 5 is 11, and they would look at me and go, "No, it's not." And I said, "Sure, it is. You start here at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and 5 is 11." It just works that way. So if you can make arithmetic do whatever you want it to do. But yeah, you're right, Mark. Let's get down to basics. If it's 2 plus 2 is 4, 2 plus 2 is 4. Maybe the examples are weird or whatever else. Then change the examples. Don't ban the books. But hey, maybe that's an easier thing to do. You know what I mean? But gosh, easy is not necessarily good. So
I agree.
Yeah, easy is not necessarily good, and but anyway, Mark, it's just been a crazy week, and lots of things continue to go on. We're monitoring the elections, looking at what's going to happen in 2022, about 4 weeks away or less from the primary election.
Elections, Marjorie Greene is still trying to decide what's going on in her race. We did lose another major coach and everything. I know we don't oftentimes talk about sports, but Jay Wright had a shocking announcement that he was retiring from Villanova. So that's 2 legends gone now, that both Coach K and Jay Wright have announced that they are retiring.
Yes. Yeah. And it's, I think we're going to see more of it, and, more legends retiring, and, excited about the opportunities to, replace these coaches and develop a playbook. And speaking of startups, I'll repeat this quote next week, but because my monologue is going to be, but I had a great quote from John Chambers, who I'm still working on trying to bring him to the show, former CEO of Cisco. And when I told him I was talking about his book, Lessons of Leadership in the Startup World, he wanted to share this insight with everyone that startups are our future and we share the dream of their output and job creation for the future of our country. So hopefully, wherever you are in the world, the guy that ran one of the top companies in the world, multi-billion-dollar company, Cisco Network Computing, now an investor in California, is saying that we can create jobs through startups. And, I think that that's exciting to know. Unfortunately, because of our immigration policies, many entrepreneurs are going to Canada. They're going
Yeah.
to uh, other countries. And so hopefully we can, it's fierce competition, right? For the global talent and the
Oh yeah,
best
there's
minds and
plenty
the
of
best ideas.
yeah, there's plenty
Right.
of
And so
competition
I
for
think
that global talent and everything. And we're going to toss it to you for the closeout. And then I know that Sasha and I guess Nick will be producing that one. Are going to be talking about Russia, the Ukraine, and China. And I think that as always, he's had some amazing guests from the Ukraine and all of that. But before I toss it to you, Chris, and we're going to have an off the line conversation about it. But apparently, those scientists that are at it again because they have found no benefits to time restricted eating. And we do know that there are some folks out there that is actually how they diet and all of that. So they did a year-long study, and apparently they have said that if you're trying to do it on that time restricted variation of diet, then not happening. So you might have to
Drop
go
me
and do
that.
one
Drop
of
me
the
that
other.
link, Mark. Drop me that link, please.
I would definitely do that.
Thanks.
Well, it's time for my closing monologue today.
Exactly.
Apologize for the dim lighting and using the remote technologies here, but my monologue on Monday will be based on an op-ed I wrote in the News and Observer in Raleigh and WRL TechWire on immigration and the Competes Act. And we are going to try to bring in a couple of immigration experts over the next few weeks as well to talk about U.S. immigration policy and what the Competes Act is. But today I would be remiss if I did not close with what I was going to open with, Earth Day. And my final insight of the week is as we celebrate Earth Day, I want to recommend a book to everybody listening, Bill Gates' book on how to avoid a climate disaster. This book's premise is that in order to reduce carbon emissions from the 51 billion tons which we had in 2019 of emissions to zero, it's about how we get to zero, not reducing emissions, but how we get to zero. And carbon emission reduction to zero is going to involve a fundamental change in the way we transport ourselves in cars, the way we grow our crops and food, the foods that we eat, and how we stay connected, and the new job creations that will occur, the new jobs that will occur from the green revolution and the green economy. In fact, he also talks about the green premium in this book, which is reducing the cost of renewable energy. Gates's thesis in the book, as I close out, is the fact of the matter is that we need to accelerate the development of technologies that help us do this. We must reduce the cost of energy, and we must work with federal and state governments and local governments to invest. And we're seeing this with President Biden's infrastructure bill, where he's investing billions of dollars into climate change. At the end of the day, there's a number of things that he's doing. He's created an investment firm called Breakaway Energy Ventures with Mike Bloomberg, and it's investing in plant-based meats. And one technology that I think is interesting is carbon. We don't talk a lot about it, but manufacturing is based on cement. Reducing cement production. And so much of the carbon that we collect in the cement must be moved out of the air into the ground. And one company that he talked about is a company in Cary, North Carolina, near Morrisville, called Sustion. I had the honor of visiting Sustion last week, meeting with Shanthan Agarwal, and I've extended an invitation for him to come to the show, where they reduce carbon from the cement and they put it in the ground. They also have a patent on technology converting natural gas into hydrogen. The point I'm trying to make as I close out is that these are all new and emerging technologies. Innovation, often we talk about technology entrepreneurs, but I think there's a great opportunity for smart cities, for entrepreneurs, for technologies to come together to play our part in addressing climate change and reducing carbon emissions. At the end of the day, I think it comes down to the three things. Let us reflect on the opportunities ahead of us. Let us be inspired by what we can do and the actions we take today. And let us together transform Mother Earth so we can pass her on to future generations with clean air, clean water, and a sustainable and resilient environment for future generations. That's my Earth Day closing words today as I wear my bright green shirt. And hopefully we will see you next week as we continue our wonderful, wonderful show, World Edition, on Pod TV, Roku TV. From our family to yours, wishing you a happy spring wherever you are.